everyone, and welcome back to Breathe Motivation. It is Wednesday, so happy hump day to you. This is episode 118. So Wednesday, you know what time it is. It's interview day, so I'm so glad to be joined by the Lonestar Hustle founder and lead interviewer, Kyle Edmondson. So he gives the opportunity to solopreneurs to get heard and get seen across multiple platforms. So he allows solopreneurs the chance to get some exposure to a brand new audience as they're just getting started. So glad to have you on here today, Kyle. Thank you so much for joining us today on Breathe Motivation.
Thanks a lot, Anthony. Glad to be here.
I'm so excited. I love these opportunities. It gives us a chance to learn and grow and bring value to our listeners. So I know that you're going to be able to do that today. So let's go ahead and start off with, I always like to get your background and kind of tell me a little bit of a story about, who you are and where you came from.
Sure, absolutely. So like Anthony said, my name is Kyle. Really glad to be here. I like to say that by day, I'm an account executive, and by night, I'm the lead interviewer of Lonestar Hustle. You're probably wondering, what is Lonestar Hustle? Well, it's my project where I interview solopreneurs or individuals with an entrepreneurial bent, individual creatives, or people that are working on their side hustle. And I give them an opportunity to share their story and talk about their work.
That's so awesome. And, I got a chance to actually, you interviewed me, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. Hopefully by the time this comes out, I'll probably be out there already.
That's right.
So I'm excited for that, and it's a great opportunity. So thank you very much for having me on that part of your platform as well. So any help works, and, it's so great to have, people that we can, work together and have success together. So, and that's awesome. So thank you so much for that platform.
Thank you. Yeah.
So Kyle, I've got to ask, every company has a certain name for some reason. For Breathe Motivation, my thought process was, one, if you're not breathing, you're dying. So, ultimately, and also leading to the end, and my quote, or not quote, I guess my slogan is breathe motivation, exhale success. So we're breathing in, some great air and some awesome opportunities and whatever that looks like, and we're exhaling success. So that's the meaning behind the name. So how did you come up with the name of Lonestar Hustle?
That's a good question. So Lonestar Hustle is aimed at helping individual entrepreneurs and individual creatives. And what I mean by that is, if you're in a situation where you are the captain and the crew, when you are the sole person working on this passion project, if you are the Lone Star, then I would like to help you. I would like to promote your work. And that's where the idea from the name came from.
Okay, so you're not looking for the next, Facebook inventor, unless they're doing it by themselves.
Hey man, I'd love to meet the next Facebook inventor, but it's if you're starting. Obviously, everybody wants to grow.
Right.
You'd like to have a team of 50 and a building. That's what everybody wants. Whenever you create something, you want to grow. But I want to help people that are starting out, that are looking to get more eyes on their work. I feel like that's where I can be most beneficial.
Awesome. So that's really cool to be able to have that individual upfront, kind of publicity. Everybody kind of needs a publicity. I can't even say it.
What's the stage of the game where you need more eyes because you've been working on your craft, you've been working on your podcast, you've been working on your art project, you've been working on your manuscript. You need to get people seeing it.
Right. Absolutely.
At the beginning.
Absolutely.
And if you're doing great work, lots of people are going to see it.
Right.
But whenever you're first starting out, it's like, well, who can I talk to? You can talk to Lonestar Hustle.
So ultimately, what made you want to take the jump and leap into entrepreneurship or focus on the solopreneur?
So I've had a entrepreneurial venture in my past, and I have friends that are entrepreneurs or like creative professionals, graphic designers, that sort of thing. And whenever you're an individual starting out, working on your craft, you're spending a lot of time becoming great. Let's take you, for example. You spend a lot of time becoming great on your podcast. Well, there's another component to that. No matter how great you are, if nobody knows about it, then what? And that's where Lonestar Hustle steps in. We want to give people an opportunity that are out there working and creating. We want to give them an opportunity to share their story and to get more eyes on their work. And that's what it's all about.
That's really cool. When you a little bit of background between me and Kyle. Kyle and I used to work for a company together, and I was actually his manager, and we got a chance to really work together. And I've kept that relationship, and he actually started listening to my podcast, and I had no clue. And we have been in contact through there, and to be able to collaborate and kind of understand each other as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs at this point. It's really cool and a great experience. So I've really enjoyed that, and working with you with that. So take us to a point of one, you want to give that platform for people, right? So how do people initially even get into contact with that? Or how would you interview them?
Well, I try and make it as easy as possible for people that are interested. If you go to lonestarhustle.com, there's my plug, lonestarhustle.com. If you go there, very front and center, there's a button that says, yes, I want to be interviewed. And in that process, you have an opportunity to tell where you're from, where you're going, what it is that you do. And by being a person, not just a meme on Instagram or a like page on Facebook, by being a person, it gives you an opportunity to get more eyes on you. I'm sure that a lot of your listeners, Anthony, have heard of Gary Vaynerchuk. He said something that I think is really good. And I thought for a while, but he has a great way of crystallizing his messages. He talks about the value of 1 being greater than 0. And that's my idea with Lone Star Hustle. So whether you are a podcaster, or you're a graphic designer, or you're making a physical product like workout shakers, if you are making this thing, if you can get 1 more pair of eyes on it, the sky's the limit.
That's awesome. I never even thought about it until you had approached me about it. And, the idea is great. And, the exposure, of course, anything is great, right? When I started out the podcast, my whole idea behind the podcast was, if I could just change the world for 1 person, then I've done my job. So it's kind of in the same realm and kind of the same idea, which is so respectful and so great. So, it's awesome. So I want you to know that I'm very proud of you from working with you and understanding who you are as a person, and being able to bring this to other people is amazing too. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So you've come a long way. You continue to work hard, and that's what you're all about. And that's so cool too. So what is one thing that you've learned about entrepreneurship that you wish you had known prior to starting your journey?
Well, this is applicable to everybody, because I know that it's not just entrepreneurs in your audience, and I want to try and bring value to anybody that's listening to this. So to answer your question specifically about what do I wish I knew then for entrepreneurship, but I want your listeners to know that the person right now that's got the headphones on, I want you to know that even if you're not an entrepreneur, you can take action with this. I think that if I could go back and say anything to myself, first of all, start sooner. That's what everybody says.
Right.
But my actionable advice is you need to be on the internet. And what I mean by that is whether you're a nurse in Michigan or you are a vlogger in Panama City Beach, wherever you are, it doesn't matter. The point is you need to have your own presence online, because Facebook and Twitter and Instagram are all awesome tools, but you need to be able to funnel people to you. So let's be specific. Let's be tactical. Let's say you are a salesperson in Texas and you're on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great, but LinkedIn is not yours. My suggestion, and this is what I wish I would have done sooner, get a website, right? Your name is Joe Smith, joesmith.com. Go buy it. You can get a website hosting and a URL, all of that for about $100. Do it. And that way you have your place. So if people want to know about the professional Joe Smith, they can go to your website. They might see you on LinkedIn, click in, and then boom, this is your property. This is yours. And it's a way for you to have your portfolio or your resume or a video where you share tactical tips. That would be my suggestion.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great opportunity for almost anybody. And I didn't really think about that until, maybe a couple of years ago to even make that sense. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and I actually, a couple of years ago, actually bought anthonyhester.com just for that same purpose, which was, to get myself out there. Now, for me, even to this day, being in front of people on the podcast, I still get a little bit nervous in putting myself out there. So I know that that's a big opportunity for some people. And like I said, it's a matter of taking action. And Kyle and I talked a little bit about this earlier. Is you've got to be able to just take action and have a belief within yourself and kind of break the cycle of that thought process behind you. And we've talked a little bit about that in the podcast. Kind of changing that negative talk track in your mind and focusing on positive. So I think that is a big thing. As far as that goes for you, Kyle, what are the opportunities that you think are going to help you along this journey with Lonestar Hustle?
So with Lonestar Hustle, I'm really excited about meeting new people. I definitely want to give people an opportunity to share their knowledge and share their story and talk about what it is they're doing online. But also, it's a chance to connect. So whenever you think about your work life or your network life or your entrepreneurial life or your artistic life, whatever the case may be, I feel like there's 3 key components. So number 1 is make. Now, if you're in sales or if you're a nurse, the make is the actual work that you're doing. If you're a podcaster, you're making your podcast. That's step 1. Step 2, share. Gotta share. And that's kind of where Lonestar Hustle steps in. But this isn't going to be a Lonestar Hustle plug. You can share on Facebook, or you can pick up the phone and text your best friend. There are lots of ways to share. That's an important part of the process. But the third part of the process is connect. So if you are a individual working on something, and again, we're going to pick on Anthony because he's the one that I'm talking to. Anthony is a podcaster and he's working by himself. He needs to connect. He wants to connect with his listeners. He wants to connect with other podcasters. These are the 3 important parts, I think, in any business or artistic endeavor.
Yeah, and it's so true, and I like that you break it down into actionable items. So I think that's an important deal for any kind of game plan or any kind of business plan. You always have to have actionable steps, and thank you for sharing those and allowing the listeners to understand that, because I think that's a big piece of success is having actionable items. So thank you on that. So what has been your greatest moment of success so far?
The greatest moment of success is actually getting started. You actually talked about this a couple of weeks ago in your podcast, my favorite podcast. He'll tell you the episode number later, guys, but it's when he talks about his grandfather. His grandfather said that things happen twice, once in your mind, once in real life. And so often what happens, at least for me, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I imagine I'm not the only one. You imagine how something's going to be, and then you let that sit in your head too long instead of taking action. So as cliche as it sounds, the greatest moment so far has been the one where I got started.
Absolutely. And, like that was, if anything, I think for any entrepreneur, it's such a roadblock sometimes. And I think we get in our own way, and our own mentality is just kind of, it's so hard to focus, right?
Sure, but I mean, not even entrepreneurs, because again, I want to respect your audience and everybody that's listening. So if you are a salesman, the old saying is the hardest door to open is your car door. Like you start thinking things in your head instead of going out and taking action. I don't know if your listeners are familiar with Grant Cardone, but he talks about how the longer you sit and think about things, the harder they become. So when there's something that you want to do, you need to take action immediately. Maybe planning, you'd be better equipped. You'd have a cooler website, all these things that everybody wants to get right before they start. He says, and I agree, just start.
Right. Yeah, I think that's something that I myself had a challenge with. And, I tell the story, probably, I guess, episode 1 or 2. It's a long time ago. But if you want to listen to those are great. So you guys can always go back to those. But, I had my microphone that sat on my desk for a couple weeks. And I was so worried about what people thought of me. And, that quote that my grandfather said. So, my grandfather's very wise. So the quote he gave was awesome. But also he told me, if the only opinion that matters in the long run is yours. I'm not in the business of listening to other people's opinions, because if I did that, then I'll never take action on what I do because I'm so scared to get out there and do that. So, anybody that's out there, we can challenge each other. And that's, what Breathe Motivation and, what Kyle's trying to do. We all are working together to create, this positive platform for people to be able to outreach and understand each other. And, I think that's a great thing too, is to know that at the end of the day, you guys are not alone. You guys can reach out to, anybody, right? You guys can reach out to me on social media. You can reach out to me. I always give you guys my email, anthonyhesser@breathemotivation.com, whatever that looks like. And even, with Kyle, I'm sure he's open to those things. We're not alone. And I think sometimes as a solopreneur, that was one thing I was scared about was, I feel like I'm alone in this process. But as you start to uncover yourself and really challenge yourself to get better, what ends up happening is you continue to move forward and you find things out about yourself that you never thought you would be able to do. And I really respect what he just said, because I think, in order to be successful, you've got to take action. And I think that's kind of where we're at as far as action goes. And, he's taking action towards helping people out. So you can never go wrong if you're helping other people. I always talk about success. If you help other people be successful, you in turn will be successful as well. So, Kyle, what is one thing that, and I think you kind of already touched on this, but we'll ask, see if there's anything other than what you said. What is one thing that you would tell someone who wants to become an entrepreneur or solopreneur?
Well, I do think the most important thing is to get started. I think it's important to find something where you scratch your own itch, because starting something, whether, it be an artistic endeavor or an entrepreneurial endeavor, like my example of creating workout shaker cups. If you don't work out, it's probably not going to be a very good business model. It's not going to be something that you're invested in. If you can find something where you're able to scratch your own itch and you have an audience of one, you have one customer that right off the bat, and it's you. Well, I think from there you're going to be able to use your excitement for that and your interest in that to grow your business.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this. What is your inspiration and what got you even started in the Lonestar hustle? Usually somebody has some kind of example or some kind of idea. What was that?
Well, I just have a lot of friends that are creative and entrepreneurial minded. And it's interesting to see them work at their craft and become good at something. But from there, they need people to see it. They need to be known. And our 2017 is fantastic. I love LinkedIn and I love Facebook and I love Twitter and I love all these different social media avenues where you're able to share. But like I mentioned earlier, it's not yours. And I think all of these things, these social media things, I like to call them breadcrumbs. So you have breathemotivation.com. That's your website. You don't own Facebook.
Right.
Probably nice if you did, but,
right.
but you don't own Facebook. So, things can change. But right now, every time you share on there or one of your listeners is like, man, this interview with Kyle is amazing. Plug. This interview with Kyle is amazing. I'm going to click the share button. Well, by doing that, that person who clicks the share button drops a couple of digital breadcrumbs that leads back to Breathe Motivation.
Right.
And I think that's super important. You're using these tools to go back to your platform.
Absolutely.
Because that's yours.
Right. Right.
For the nominal fee, like $100 a month or whatever the case may be, but it's yours.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That's something definitely, that I have had trouble with before. And, I think it's an important piece of it is, of course, at the end of the day, you want to be able to own your actions and own, what you do, right? You take responsibility and you love what you do. And I think that's a big focus of anybody. If you've got to, like you said, your own itch, like whatever you determine is right for you, go after it, because, those things can turn into great things and you never know until you try.
Well, and even if they don't turn into great things, if it's something that you love and you gain value from, I would argue that having a blog where you write about succulents, but that's your passion, you love it, I would say that's more valuable than watching Game of Thrones.
Right.
If there's something that you genuinely enjoy and you want to scratch your own itch, because you know what, Anthony, I can't find any literature about succulents, so I'm going to start posting some literature. which is a horrible example. But just go with me, everybody. Go with me, listener. Please don't roll your eyes too much. So you create that, and you are creating a body of work. And then who knows, maybe one day down the road, somebody is curious and they Google it and like, well, look at this guy. He's a succulent expert. And then you become an expert in a field. Or you could watch Netflix all day, which, I watch Netflix too. I'm not hating on Netflix. But even if it's not going to make you $1 million, if there's something that you're genuinely interested in, with the tools that we have in 2017, it's so easy to create and document and share that with the world.
Right. And it's such a cool platform, just even thinking about it. And, I'm actually, thankful for these tools because, I look at, as I research podcasting and all that stuff, even 3-4 years ago, this was, a whole nother kind of production and all this stuff. So really anybody can go out and start a podcast if they wanted to today. So
yeah, go out there and start.
Right. That's it.
That's what I'm saying, guys.
Right.
Go out there and start.
So take action. Kyle, I definitely appreciate having you on for our episode here. I love interviewing, like-minded people and, bringing value to our listeners. And, I know a lot of people relate to, just individuals. And one of the things that I really harp on myself is that, I'm just some normal individual that, started a podcast. It doesn't take, coming back from a background of money or, having, some CEO grandpa that's going to give you your own job. So you create your own, path. And I really, appreciate that and love what you're doing. So,
well, thank you very much. Yeah.
So definitely keep it up, and I'm going to let you plug your stuff. So go ahead and, let the listeners know where they can reach you or where they could submit their information and whatever you want to plug, you got some time.
Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me on Breathe Motivation. Guys that are listening, you that's listening, thank you very much for listening to this 20 minutes of talk. And I hope that from this little bit of discussion between Anthony and myself, that you will take action. And what I encourage you to do is invest in yourself and share what you're working on. Now, even if you're not working on something right now, maybe there's something that's been sitting in the back of your mind. Maybe it's time to take action. Get out there and start. If you've already started, or if you're about to start, and you do want somebody to help promote your work, and you would like to share your story, please visit me at lonestarhustle.com. But even if you don't want to visit lonestarhustle.com to share your story and promote your work, get started today.
Thank you, Kyle. I really appreciate it. I know the listeners appreciate it. I hope you guys are going to have a great day. I know you guys are. Go out there, take some action like Kyle said. That's the number one key. If you don't take action, nothing happens. So go out there, take action, do what you got to do. And as always, remember to breathe motivation and exhale success. We will bring you another interview next week. And I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow on our daily podcast. So thank you so much. And you guys have a great rest of your day.